Okay, so you're thinking about building a house. What's the first step? Well, one, you need to find a builder, even though you haven't found the land yet. You need to find who you're going to work with as far as building, because part of this whole building package is, well, can you build on the lot? How much is it going to cost? What are certain things about the lot that you need to avoid? Well, today's video, we're actually doing a 7-day, 7-post, 7-video pro tip on, well, if you're building a house, what are some of the things that you need to pay attention to? Today, we're actually starting with the lot and everything around that. So just like our post said, if you go to Facebook and check us out at Build America Custom Homes or on YouTube at Build America Custom Homes, you'll find that the foundation of your dream home starts with the right lot. It sure does. Finding the perfect lot is the first step to building your dream home. Location and accessibility. So location, where do you want to live? In a perfect world, where do you want to live? Now, part of this is going to be determined by how much money that you want to spend on the land, or what's the total housing project going to cost you. You know, the total deal for building that house. So part of that's going to be land costs, and part is obviously going to be construction. But now part of it's going to be utilities. So there is something to be said about when you build in an infill lot, or you tear down an old house and replace it. We call it replacement housing, but you tear down a house and you build a new house there. There's a lot of times that the utilities are usable, they're reusable from the existing house, providing it wasn't out of service for an extended period of time. Some cities maybe 6 months, some maybe a year, some I'm sure a little bit longer. But even if it's a infill lot that's never had a house on it, if the utilities run in front of the property, then that's likely going to be the best case scenario for you to have water and sewer connections, versus if you build in a rural area or somewhere it doesn't have sewer and you have to pay for septic. Septic systems can cost anywhere between $13,000 and $40,000, depends on the size of the house, how many bedrooms there are in a house, and it actually goes by bedrooms and not bathrooms. I know it seems a little weird. Also the soil type, does it perk or not? There's a standard conventional system, alternative. What does the engineering behind it look like? And do you have to bring in dirt? You know, we're looking at one right now that is conventional with a pump, shallow, but you have to bring in topsoil because of the existing soil conditions that are present. And we're talking a lot of dirt. So, you know, the land will determine the total cost, not just in the price of buying it, but bringing it up to buildable standards. So location is partly that, where you build, how much, you know, typically the further outside the city you get, the cheaper the land gets, right? But the further outside the city you get, the less likely you are to have city water, city sewer, so therefore the cost goes back up. So you just have to weigh it out. Now, a lot of times it's not just the cost of the total build, it's where do you want to live? Maybe you want to live close to the interstate, or close to schools, or your work, or just entertainment, or you just have an idea, you like an area for whatever reason, and that's where you want to live. So now you need to start looking for land that is the best prices possible. Maybe some you have to negotiate some different terms in there to get the property a little bit better, but some of that is actually in the build cost. So that's only going to be on the location, and accessibility. That goes with the interstate, the roads, the, you know, life outside of just living in the house, you know, how close is shopping and stuff like that. Soil conditions and drainage, kind of hit on that a little bit. Soil conditions can determine what type of foundation that is going to need to be put into the ground, engineered for that house. You know, some systems can be quite expensive. In the Hampton Roads area where we mainly build, you know, the soil's not that bad. You have shrink swell. You have a lot of clay in certain areas. You have a lot of sand in certain areas. And then you have a nice mix of the two, which is the best case scenario. Soil surveys, what they call soil studies, will actually determine what type of foundation, which will ultimately determine the cost. Now, drainage, you know, as a builder, we hate building. First of all, we never build in the lowest point of the lot unless, and the only unless, is that there's a tremendous amount of backfill being brought into the property. And the question is, well, why would you build in the lowest part of the property? There may be a situation where setbacks are not your friend. So if you look at an infill lot, especially, most cities in Hampton Roads, you're going to have side setbacks, meaning from the left side, from the right side, you have to be so far off the property line, from the rear and from the front. And what's left between all those setbacks, the front setback, maybe say it's 30 feet from the road, and it's 50 feet from the rear, and it's 15 feet on each side. Well, that leftover area is your buildable footprint. Well, what if the buildable footprint just happens to be a low part of the lot? You never want to naturally build a house on a low part without raising the dirt around. So basically the foundation would be a very tall foundation with a lot of backfill. Because what you don't want to do is bring in dirt temporarily and then try to dig a footing and then build the house. That's not going to work right. So you have to go down to either soil that is engineered, that's pressed. You've actually seen, you may have seen some projects where maybe apartment buildings going in, and the soil type required them to bring a lot of dirt in. We're talking 15, 20 feet tall berm of dirt, and to build up the area and to allow that area to settle, and then they go back and build. But in single family houses, really what you're doing is you're digging down to where the soil is stable, to where the soil study determined how far you had to dig down. This is partly to do with the soil type, the frost line in your area, things like that. And then how wide is the footing going to be? Does it require any stone to be backfilled? How much rebar? What size rebar? And so all of that goes into play. So building on the lowest part of the lot is something that's going to cost you a little bit, because the foundation is going to be taller. It's going to be taller because you've got to bring more backfill in to create a positive grade situation. So if you can help it, you buy a lot that's flat and grassy is perfect, with maybe a little bit of slope to it. But we never want to dig in the lowest part of the neighborhood. All right, so soil type can determine, and it will determine the overall cost to build. And those are things that soil studies or soil surveys, we call them. That's the kind of money you're going to have to spend, unless there's something recent on file from someone else, which I always recommend you getting your own, having your own person do it. And it's $350-ish. I mean, it might be $250. I found a price pretty cheap from one person, $500. It's also going to depend on how many cores or how many samples they have to take. Most of our situations, Hampton Roads, we do about 3. And so that's going to determine the overall build cost. The other thing is sun exposure and natural features. How much sun is the house going to get? Is the house going to be in a heavily treed area? If so, how you build or some of the materials that you use might want to be in play in that. Now, this is typically a situation where definitely your gutters, or if you're underneath a lot of trees, a lot of canopy, your gutters are going to get dirty. Your roof's going to always have leaves on it, so there's going to be maintenance involved there. You're going to have to, if you don't do it yourself, you're going to have to hire someone to clean the gutters, clean the roof. Also, you can obviously upgrade to a leaf guard or a gutter guard type system, but even that's going to require maintenance in the future if you're in under a heavy canopy or heavy trees. Now, the trees do help with cooling, so your cooling bill on the house is going to be a little bit less. It can increase heating slightly because you don't have that radiant heat from the sun. The same thing in the summer that's making the house hotter is now helping the house to be a little bit cooler. It's not making it cooler, but it's just not allowing that natural radiant heat to build up into the house. And the other thing is the moisture around the house and the roof condition. The roof's likely going to get, fungus, algae to grow on it. So you're going to have so think about that. I love trees. I have a lot of trees around my house. Also have that maintenance that I'm telling you about. Natural features, what's around the house? What's the visuals going to look like? Is there water off into a distance? What if there's water, a block away, but you can see it from your house, especially if you're building a 2-story? Well, maybe the house is positioned on the lot that enhances that view, and maybe your bedroom, whichever bedroom yours going to be, is that you design a house so you can take that into consideration. Maybe if you have a good enough view, you opt for a second story balcony to come, if you have a 2-story and your room is upstairs, that you have that balcony to get to anticipate that view from the second floor. Even if you have a first floor bedroom, you might still have that 2-story balcony that gives you that view. Do you have a view of the woods? If you do, and anticipating, can someone build behind you one day? And all this stuff goes into play. But the natural features about it are, you're on a hilly lot and you have a creek. Which way you position the house to take that view into the entertaining areas is something that I always try to look at. Sometimes the buildable footprint determines how the house is positioned, but if you have enough land, if you have any acreage at all, you can start to shift that house around a little bit and position it how you want to. Nothing says it has to be parallel to the street. Are you going to build where there's HOA restrictions? So, I personally, I don't anticipate ever living in an HOA. Zoning will determine the square footage of the house. That's why we don't have a lot of smaller homes being built, because the minimum square footage in areas can be, something 1,600 square feet and up, and taking out that 1,000 square foot house or 900 square foot house, that's someone that wants that really small home to build. So sometimes the zoning can determine, it'll also determine the height of the house. And there are, again, setbacks between the front, sides, and the rear. So, those are some of the things that we have to consider when we're looking. So I don't want to make it overly complicated. This is something you can have in one afternoon of a discussion, is all of the things except for having the soil study done. But everything else is something that we can look at on paper, drive by, call the city, and determine whether that lot is good for you or not. So all this that we're talking about, easily taken care of. Pro tip, a great home on a bad lot can create long-term headaches. And this is maybe soil type, erosion, heavily canopy areas, something like that. That's going to cause a little bit of maintenance. And you just want to make sure you start with literally a strong foundation. So we have the right lot, the right location, everything works for you, the price is right, utilities are going to be affordable, nothing crazy there, whether it be well and septic or city water, city sewer, or combination of the both. I'd love to know in the comments below, what are some of the concerns that you have, and what are some of the things that you've heard as you're looking to maybe build a house? Have you even considered all of this, what we just talked about in this video, or what I've talked about in this video? Because these are things that we run across quite a bit. My name is Dwayne. If you would, comment below. What are some of those questions? Because look, hey, I want to learn from you. Some of the questions that you have, concerns you have, maybe put them in a future video or future post. And if you're interested in building a home, I would love to talk to you. You can reach out to us. My name is Dwayne Cotton with Build America Custom Homes. You can call us at 757-483-4848, or you can email me at Dwayne, and that's DUANE, at mbbuilt.com. So look forward to talking to you, hopefully in the comments, maybe even by phone. Either way, get a hold of me. Can't wait to talk to you. All right, everyone, have a good day, good evening, good night, good weekend, and thanks for watching this video.